Hey, welcome back to Beyond the Message, where this week we're diving into Ruth chapter 2. Hey, John, can you think of anybody better if the pastor's going to be gone to fill in for him than Pastor John Wheeler?
I love that man. I'm thankful for him and his willingness to step in, and what a gift he was to our church today.
Exactly. And he is a gift, over 50 years in ministry.
Yes.
And his wisdom, he and I get to sit down once a month. We just sit and have coffee and just talk to each other and listen, and just so much wisdom and experience. And to hear him share and teach from his overflow of experience and the things he learned, it is such a blessing to Battle Creek Church to have him here and have someone like him when pastor's gone.
Every time I get the opportunity to sit down with him, I leave thinking, okay, this man has made me better.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. And I just wish I had his voice.
Yes.
my voice is not that.
Move over, James Earl Jones.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I'll tell him that and
Yes.
see what he thinks. So we're in Ruth chapter 2 this week, and it's really a great contrast to what we saw last week in Naomi. Ruth did not let grief stop her. Mm-hmm. She did what was necessary with humility and gratitude to move on and go and do what she needed to do. And so how does your outlook and effort affect the journey during seasons of change or difficulties?
Well, a couple of things I would say. Probably first is to recognize change is constant. It's all the time around. Mm-hmm. So realizing that outlook shapes how we see change. Okay, so from a hopeless outlook, it focuses on things will never get better. Mm-hmm. So outlook shapes how we see the change. Effort shapes how we walk through the change. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to pair the two together. Mm-hmm. One is how we see. The other is what we do, and when the two walk together, it allows the transformation to come through in the midst of the change.
Yeah. You can't just stay where you are. I hate to lose. I am built to win. Doesn't matter what I do. I will define the win, but I will find a win. But I don't want to stay where I am. And oftentimes we get stuck daydreaming about what we want to happen instead of moving forward to make it happen. When I was visiting with Pastor John about this message, he said, really, chapter 2, he says, if you put in one word, hope. He says, there has to be the hope that it's going to get better. I can move forward. And for me, when you look at Ruth, she just said, what's next? What's next? What's the next thing that I can do? She didn't understand the land. She didn't understand the people. She didn't understand the laws. But she asked Naomi, and Naomi says, go do this. Okay. She just did what's next, and she went and did it. This is what I have to do next to move forward.
So my all-time favorite television series ever to be created is The West Wing.
I love The West Wing. I've seen it several times.
So I've watched it more than should be allowed, but whether it is the first episode, and it's the final 2 words of that, or the final episode, every episode that involves the president involves 2 words.
Yep.
His phrase is, what's next?
Yep, that's it.
That was it. And it was his way of saying, I've got it, now let's go. Mm-hmm. I've got it, what's the next thing? And I think the reality is it wasn't trying to figure out what's the next 20 steps, just what's the next step. Mm-hmm. My dad was preaching a message not too long ago, and he referenced Finding Nemo. In Nemo, you've got that fish, but his friend is Dory. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Dory is someone who's has no memory. Right. But the one thing she does remember is what her parents taught her: just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving. And I think when you come down and boil it down to outlook, how we see change, and effort, meaning how we walk through it. The challenge is just keep moving, and we're moving towards just what's next. Mm-hmm. I think the challenge is we want God to reveal what's the next 20 steps, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
And obedience is doing what's next.
Yeah.
And the next thing that he's called us to do.
And sometimes knowing what's next doesn't mean you can see way down the road. My car, when I'm driving at nights, it has a feature in it that the lights will automatically go to bright lights. And if I'm in a car, then it goes to dim lights. And I love being able to see further down the road because then I can drive faster and I can get there faster. But there are times that going through life with God is like my headlights are off and I'm driving with my fog lamps or a big lighter out in front of my car. I can't see where I'm going, but I know God has shown me what's next. And it's not even a full step. It's a quarter step. And, Pastor talks about that. I don't remember how he says it.
Okay. So think about the way Pastor, he said it so many times. I do have it memorized. At Battle Creek, what do? We go as fast and as far as the headlights shine.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the mantra for as long as I've known the man.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will go as fast and as far as the headlights shine. In other words, we're going to continue to go as the Lord reveals and just keep going. That impacts our outlook and our effort.
Yeah.
And the same was true when it came to Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know chapter 3 or chapter 4 at that point.
Exactly.
But she did go as fast and as far as the headlights were shining.
Mm-hmm.
And as she kept moving, it revealed the next step and then the next. But if we're waiting, then we will be really paralyzed because of we're wanting all the answers instead of just following the next answer.
Yeah. And we're not saying that there's not a time to wait on the Lord. The Bible clearly says that. But we're talking about God has told you something to do. And the key thing that Pastor says there is go. Go as fast and as far, but go. You just have to, the outlook and effort come to the point of, I know where he's called me to go. I know what's next, and I've just got to go there.
So I've got a mentor in my life who I love dearly, who constantly has reminded me, it's never a bad thing to seek out the will of God until you know the will of God, and then it comes down to obedience.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of, is that really what you want? Come on, God, let's go to Will 2.0.
Think about that. It's never a bad thing.
That's right.
Until you know.
Yep.
And then are you going to obey? And I think that it shapes our outlook and our effort just to be able to say, okay, I will go, I will trust, I will do what's next.
Yeah.
And God, as you reveal the next thing, we'll follow.
Yeah. Back in week 1, Pastor Alex told us that in the book of Ruth, well, really in the whole Hebrew mindset, they use pictures more than anything else. And in the story of Ruth, in the book of Ruth, there are several pictures there. And Boaz, one of the things is that he is a picture of God the Father.
Yes.
And Boaz gave Ruth protection and provision and honor. And so how does his example and the way that he treated Ruth help you recognize God's kindness in your story?
For this, I would say if you have not watched the message from this last week, make sure and watch it. Because I think what Pastor John did in boiling it down to one statement was so helpful. And the statement he made multiple times is God is in charge and at work for his good purpose. Now think about that. God is in charge. That means he is boss. We say that Jesus is not just Savior, but he's Lord.
Yes.
I define Lord as boss. He's in charge. It's not, I'm in charge, you can have this part. No, he's in charge.
Right.
And he is at work. But the challenge there is we go, well, we don't like how he's working. That's not what he's saying. God is in charge and he is at work for his good purpose. And when you think about Boaz and all that he showed, how he represents the Father, it is to realize, think of that. He is in charge. And he was at work for his good purpose. And that included in the moments when Ruth didn't understand it. But it wasn't for any purpose. It was a good purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, for me, when Pastor John said that, it was so refreshing and yet so challenging.
Yeah. People like to use Bible verses to help people. And sometimes, man, it just reminds me, a number of times people have used Romans 8:28. God works all things together for our good and his glory.
Yes.
And I love that Bible verse, but I almost hate when somebody starts to throw that out. It's like, oh, is this really the context for that? And when I think about Boaz showing kindness to Ruth and God showing kindness to me, there have been a number of people who have shown me kindness when I needed it, but they couldn't show me kindness when I didn't need it. I remember I was in my very first church, first position as a student pastor, and I was a college student. Shirley and I, it was our first Christmas together. We'd been married about 11 months, and several things had happened. She cracked a tooth, and we had to get, she had to get a crown, and the car broke down, and this happened. And we're at Christmas, and the pastor says, "Hey, what are you and Shirley doing for Christmas? Are you going back home to Oklahoma?" Because we were in Florida. And I said, "No, this has happened, this happened." I said, we're just trying to pay rent. I said, we just, things are pretty tight right now. We're trying to pay rent. And that was it. I didn't expect anything. And then the next day or 2 days later, Pastor Sid comes up to me and says, "Here you go. This is for you and this is for Shirley." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "I told some people about your story and what you're going through. You all ought to be able to celebrate Christmas." And he says, "Here's the deal. This envelope is for you all to pay your rent. This envelope is 50% of what's in there is for Shirley to buy you a Christmas present and 50% for you to buy her a Christmas present." And I didn't ask for that. I wasn't expecting, but I had to be in it. Things were tight. We weren't going to get kicked out. We were going to make ends meet, but there was no Christmas, and we were too poor to have a tree, let alone an ornament. We may have had the words "Merry Christmas" someplace. Maybe. But for us to receive the kindness of God through other people, we have to be in a difficult place. And so for me, nothing can separate us. Going back to Romans 8, nothing can separate us from the love of God, the kindness of God, the generosity of God. And when I'm going through these difficult times, I know they're going to develop me and they're going to make me, but I have to be in this, but I have to be looking for the kindness and finding it, you know?
Yeah. I appreciated even what Pastor John did, because he didn't stop just at Romans 8:28. He went on to Romans 8:29, which reminds us that why is that verse 28 so powerful? Because of the end result. God's doing this that we would become like his son. It is to draw us into likeness of Jesus. I think about those hard times, the Boaz moments with the father, and it dates me a little bit, maybe a lot of it, but you would be familiar with the footprints in the sand.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you get, God is walking with this guy, random, let's say his name's Joe, and Joe's walking along, and as they get to the end, they look back, and Joe questions God going, "Hey, there was that season, that hard time, and there was only one set of footprints." And he questions God saying, "Where were you during that time?" And God says, "I was right there." He goes, "But there was only one set of footprints." And God says, "I know, because that's when I was carrying you."
Yeah.
And what I love about this is it does reveal God's kindness.
Yeah.
Even when we don't see it, even when we don't feel it.
Yeah.
But for those two realities to really be true, even when we don't see it, even when we don't feel it, it comes back to God is at work and in charge for his good purpose.
Yeah.
And part of that good purpose is for our good.
Yeah.
And it's always for his glory.
Yeah. You talk about dating yourself, so I'm really going to date myself. But back in the old Baptist hymnal, there was the song we used to sing, "Let others see Jesus in you."
Yep.
But sometimes I need to see Jesus in others. That's the kindness of God. And I need to recognize this is God's kindness. This is God reminding me. This is God challenging me. That this is God wrapping his arms around me. I can think of times that I was in a very bad place. It's a very difficult situation. And someone just said, "Hey, can we go to lunch?" And they said, "I'll pick you up at the church." And they walk in. The first thing they did was give me a hug and just said, "You needed this." And it was like, okay, let's go to lunch. I'm ready to go. You know, and just somebody just recognizing that as the senior pastor at the time, I am hurting so bad. And they said, "I just want to give you a hug. I don't have any words. All I can give you is a hug." You know, and that's it. Let others see Jesus in you, and sometimes see Jesus in others, you know.
So good.
Yeah. So the last question, this is a longer one, so I'm going to read this one. Ruth 2 shows God weaving hope back into Naomi's heart through Ruth and Boaz. When have you experienced God's presence through the kindness of others, and how can you become that kind of reminder of God's love to others?
It begins with even the people who would come in and realizing you or me as a senior pastor can struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Struggle is the universal. We
Mm-hmm.
live in a fallen world. We talked about that last week. But the reality is, it's in those moments, we really don't care what people have to say.
Mm-hmm.
We really care that people show up.
Yep.
It's the ministry of presence. It was Dr. Matthew, who was the dean of the School of Theology at ORU, who walked into a introduction to pastoral care. Just so you know, the textbook was a book that he had written. He was an expert on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And he walks in and says, you walk into a hospital room and someone has just found out they have terminal cancer. What do you say? He said, you walk into a room and they have just given birth to their daughter. What do you say? He said, you walk in and someone is just found out they're sick. What do you say? You have all of these seminary students trying to impress the dean of the School of Theology, raising hands, quoting scriptures, and he patiently listened and then looked at all of us and says, you're wrong. You say nothing. And he says, it's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Mm-hmm. Think about, Bob, I know because you and I've talked, the number of funerals that you and I have been privileged, blessed, challenged to lead, rivals a lot. Mm-hmm. But what helps in those moments is even what Paul wrote of saying that we comfort with the comfort that we have received.
Yeah.
And it's those two realities of, hey, in those moments, people don't need us to be something we're not. Mm-hmm. But they do need us to be full of the Lord and just be present. Mm-hmm. And God will use those past challenges and that we've walked through to comfort others. Mm-hmm. And it's also a reminder, not just to them, but for us of those seasons where God was so kind.
Yeah, it is. When I've coached younger staff members, like, I'm preaching my first funeral and I'm going to say this, and this. I'm like, okay, you need to back up. First of all, this isn't a time to impress anyone. Don't try and be cute. You are there for them, not for you. This is about them. And I said, have you been to their house yet? What do you mean? Have you got the family together to sit and talk? And I said, no, but you have your sermon written? Yeah. How is that possible? Again, this is about them and learning that, when my brother back in 2010 committed suicide, and I actually was able to preach the service by the strength of God, but I felt like I had a message I wanted to preach. And afterward, I had a church member say, now that you went through this loss, what did you learn? And I smiled real big. And this is a senior saint, just a godly woman. And I looked at her and I said, you know what I learned? Nothing in the hundreds of funerals I preached over the last 20 some years, nothing I said made a difference. What really made a difference was being there. It's those times that I meet with the family before the service, mm-hmm. the day of or the day after their loved one has passed. And I said, hey, let's get the family together. So tell me, what was something that they loved to do? What was one of their favorite phrases? What did they do when they got angry? And they just start telling stories. And I only meet with them for an hour, but in that hour, I get them to tell me everything. And I just jot things down. So when I'm writing a funeral message, I am writing about the hope that is in Christ, but I'm also reminding them, the tax on love is tears. Mm-hmm. The greater the love, the greater the tax, the greater the tears. But here's why you love this person. You're not weeping now because they died. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people die every day and you don't weep for them. You're weeping because of the relationship, the joy, the kindness they brought into your life, the way they served you, the way they loved you as a dad or a spouse or a brother or a sister or whatever. And that's what kindness is. It's being who people need you to be at that moment and just saying, sometimes it's not saying anything and asking the right questions and letting them talk.
It makes me think about Abraham and Genesis 12 and all that he would eventually go through, but it began with God saying, hey, I am going to bless you.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just to bless Abram
Right.
or Abraham. He said, I will bless you so that you will be a blessing.
Yes.
And the reality is, as you and I experience God's love and his grace, his provision, yes, we are the beneficiaries of it. But God blesses us with those things so that, in order that we can in turn be a blessing to others.
Yeah.
And I think that is the kindness of God, and it helps expand that kindness when we can show that kindness to others.
Yeah, it is. It's why did God give me these gifts? You know, you see, I've shared this illustration before, but you see an orange tree with all these oranges. He didn't give that tree that fruit to the tree. Go, check me out. I've got more than you.
Yes.
It's so that they can be picked off and shared with others, and others can receive the blessing of that. And that's it. When God gives us kindness to show somebody, he's given it to us in a special way to share with others so that we can be a blessing to them, because we're blessing them with the blessing, just like Paul told the Corinthian church. It's the same thing. And so I'd encourage you a couple of things. There's a handful of questions down below where you can dive deeper into Ruth chapter 2. And then after that, there are 3 steps that you can take to go out and practice what you've learned this week. And I'd encourage you to do all of those, but also as we prepare for next Sunday, take time and read through Ruth chapter 3. So this way, when the message is preached next week, you already have it in your head. You have questions. You're looking for answers. You're saying, how is he going to deal with this? What's he going to say about that? But you're already diving into it so God can speak to your heart and say, hey, you read this. Here's what you're going to learn. And so I pray that as you study deeper this week, God will bless you in a great way.